Okay, so now we're going to get into factoring some weird looking things. But that's quite all right because you have everything that you need to know. The first thing that you need to do is not panic, but we're going to go ahead and we are going to take out, when I'm looking here, I'm going to always look to see if I have a greatest common factor. So remember, this is the word common, which means that we're going to look at factors that two or more things share. Okay, you can't share with yourself. That's not sharing. So I'm going to look here. So I have three sets of numbers. Okay, so we can do this longhand, and I can also show you how to do it in the calculator. So let's just go ahead and do it longhand for the sake of this video. So if I have 30, I have 10, and I have 15. I'm going to ignore the fact that that's negative right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up all of my little factoring t's. So what did I say? I said 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6, and then it repeats. Here I have 1 and 10, 2 times 5, and then it repeats. I have 1 times 15, 2 doesn't work, 3 times 5, 4 doesn't work, and then it repeats. Okay, so I'm looking for the largest number that all three share, that all three have in common. I see a 5, and a 5. Okay, that's pretty big. Here I see a 10, but there's no 10, so I can't choose that. Here I see a 15, but there's no 15 here. So my largest number that they share has to be 5. Okay, so that means I can divide out of every term. It has to be every term. You can't just do the ones you like. 5. Okay, so let's not panic here. So now I have x squared, x, and x. So if I have x squared, and I have x, and I have x, this is the same as x times x. This is just x, and this is just x. So the most I can factor out of all three is simply one of the x's. So I can divide by x, I can divide by x, and I can divide by x. So I'm going to do the same thing with the y. So I have y, and y squared. So remember, y squared is the same as y times y. So you can see here that what these share is just simply 1y. So I can divide everything by y. Okay, so don't throw it away. It is an expression. So what I'm dividing by has to be written down first. So this all comes out, and I'm really stressing this because so many students throw this away. This is 5xy. And when I say dividing out, notice it comes outside the parentheses. Because remember, I have to be able to multiply this times this to get my original. Now I'm going to divide. So when I divide, 30 divided by 5 is 6. X squared divided by x is x. And y divided by y, I'm going to write this down here just for illustration, is 1. Then I have a positive sign. 10 divided by 5 is 2. X divided by x is 1. Y divided by y is 1. I wrote too big here. Then I have negative 15 divided by a positive 5. That's why the negative's there. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. X divided by x is 1. Y squared divided by y is y. Okay. I did it on purpose because this does not turn into a 0. It turns into a 1. So now if I clean it up, I have 5xy times, well, this gets x times 1 is just x, so this becomes 6x. And then I have 2 times 1 times 1, which gives me 2. And then I have negative 3 times 1 times y, which gives me negative 3y. So that's my final answer. And if I were to check, I would just multiply everything back in. So I'm going to do a check just to show you. These are my factors. So here this is a factor and this is a factor. So those there are factors of the original. So if I were to multiply those back in, let's see what I get. I'm going to write it out here. So I would take all of this and multiply it to 6x. And that gives me 30x squared y. And then I take that 5xy and I multiply it to 2. That gives me positive 10xy. And then I take that 5xy and I multiply it to negative 3y. I get negative 15xy squared. So that was exactly where I started from. So I know that my factors, I did those correctly.